From the combined crew of blindandroidusers.com and accessibleandroid.com, it's time for your favorite Android podcast. Kick back now and enjoy another fine episode from these fanboys and gals as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here's your crew.
Hello and welcome to episode 193 of the Blind Android Users Podcast. I'm Ed Green and I'm joined today by my co-hosts Sally Kunders, Warren Carr, Karine Kawan and John Dyer. And we are coming to you on Saturday, the 17th of August, 2024. This week is Warren's favourite week of the year. We're going to spend most of our time talking about the Made by Google 2024 event. But I'm delighted to say as well that we have a return of a popular feature, and that's the My Android Journey story from Joe Hodge, who is staying with us for the episode to talk about all things made by Google. So let me start with guests first. Joe, how are you? Where are you coming to us from?
Good, Ed. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. So just having nice days.
Nice. My uncle lives in Louisville.
Yeah. I think we talked about that. I was excited about that.
No, it's good. Warren, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ed. I was telling John earlier today that I felt like I wasn't going to be able to come. I had too much pork ribs last night. It almost made me sick at like 2 a.m. And I'm like, my gosh, that was my greediness. But I'm glad I'm feeling well and I'm here and it's a beautiful day.
So 2 things on that. 1, you can never have too many pork ribs. And 2, hell would literally freeze over if you were going to miss the Blind Android Users podcast episode on Made by Google, because you would have left it to me and Sally.
So, oh my gosh, and that would have it would have been such a tragedy of all tragedies.
That was never going to happen.
I need to correct the record because I know what you would have done. Irreparable damage. So,
if it had been worse, you'd have literally walked off a life support machine to get to this podcast.
Oh my God.
Being done.
My time of the year, definitely. I'm glad to be here.
And speaking of Yanak, how are you, Sally?
I'm doing great, literally great, and handsome as always. How are you? Premier League is back.
Premier League is back. Huddersfield won, I think, in League One. They conceded a penalty in injury time to... well, it was 2-1. They were 2-0 up. There's 2-1 up. I think it has finished 2-1.
So do you think they will come back to Championship this year?
I hope so. Yeah. But yeah, it's good the Premier League is back.
Those, Larry, really tough, like 24 teams, and you're going to play 46 matches, including also cups and anything. It's really tough.
Yeah, and there's a lower league cup as well. So you're guaranteed to play a lot of games. There'll be 60 games probably.
Well, yeah.
Karine, how are you?
I'm doing well. Everything's going well here. Well, life as usual. Nothing important.
Oh, good. John, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I had a good week. Except for the fact that my printer died and I had to get a new one. But I bought that thing in 2009 for $40.
Oh, let's say rest in peace.
Yeah.
So back to the drawing board when it comes to printers.
Well, that has served you for a long time, John. What we're talking about, more than 10 years now? That's a good printer.
Yeah, 15 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. What did you replace it with?
It was an HP, so I just bought another basic HP. I mean, it cost me $60 this time, so inflation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, it didn't come with the ink. You have to buy that separate, right?
It comes with what they call 3 months of ink. It's basically cartridges that are mostly empty, just to let you know it works, and then you have to purchase some more ink. Yeah.
Oh boy, good.
But a wireless printer, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, the announcement segment. This is a segment dedicated to things we want you to be in the know. And now for this week's episode, here's your announcements.
Let's turn then to our announcement section. We have two, I think. One from last week pertaining to the demo we had from Martijn van der Spek. Who wants to take away that announcement?
So for this announcement, what we're trying to do is that the guy we talked with last week, and that's the PiccyBot app that we interviewed him about, was so generous, and he's given us 5 codes, lifetime codes for the PiccyBot. So you're not having that restricted version, you have the full one. So we've got 5 of those as a giveaway. However, in order to be able to get it, you got to write us and let us know what was his first accessible app. It was something we talked about, and I was bemoaning the fact that we no longer have that app, or I think you said it was still there. Does anyone remember if you said it was still there or something? And I don't remember. John?
I think it's long gone, but the point being, if you have listened to the interview, you'll know the answer. If not, go listen to the interview. It's in last week's episode. And when you email us at contact@blindandroidusers.com, telling us what his first accessible app was, then we'll put you on the list of people who could possibly win one of those codes. And after a week, we will randomly select the winners out of everybody who has answered the question correctly.
Our second announcement is that we are 7 episodes away from our 200th. That's going to be Saturday, the 5th of October, according to my Alexa. I said that just to try and trigger everyone's smart speakers. I know people try and avoid doing that. I like causing chaos, so I deliberately use the wait word. So that is Saturday, the 5th of October. Please do save the date and join us. That will be noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're in the summer, aren't we? So 4 p.m. GMT, UTC, 5 p.m. British summertime. So Saturday, the 5th of October, do please come and join us for that.
And if you're in India, I think that's 9:30 p.m., isn't that? I don't remember, but I think I'm almost positive.
I think it was.
Exactly.
Yeah. I couldn't remember what their clocks did, whether they moved.
I don't know, 9:30 for Indian time.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Welcome to the Spotlight segment. This is a segment dedicated to interviews with developers or interesting happenings in the world of Android. And now for this week's episode, here's your Spotlight.
And now we move to our Spotlight section. And there is, I think, only one place to start this week, and that is with Made by Google 2024. It took place on Tuesday, the 13th of August. And there's really only one member of the crew I can hand over to lead us off on this subject.
Before that, I want to ask you, how do you feel about it, Ed?
About Made by Google?
Yeah.
Well, we have some more Google phones, don't we? So let's keep our powder dry, and let's abuse Warren as he takes it away, and let's see what they do, Mr. Carr.
That was very generous of you, Ed. You didn't take the bait from that knuckle-headed, handsome friend of mine.
Yeah, but I will take the bait. What you meant to say was Made by Fisher Price.
Exactly. Oh, boy. Anyway, so finally, right? Now, here's what really bothers me, and this is probably the part that I would rant about for maybe the next 10, 15 minutes. Just kidding. But there's something that really bothers me. I was looking up the trade-ins and all of that. I looked up the Pixel 6 Pro, for example, And whether it's a 512 gigs or 256 or 128 gigs that you're trading in for the Pixel 9 Pro XL or Pixel 9 Pro, guess what? They're all $450. So Google, if you're hearing my knuckle-headed voice, my whole idea is you're not giving an incentive for people to buy bigger storages because, frankly, it doesn't make sense for me to pay a lot of money for a bigger storage. And if you're someone who likes to trade in, then I would say, get the smaller storage. And then when it comes time to trade in, you get the same trading money that you would get if you were trading in the big storage device. So I don't know. Somebody was drinking what it likes to drink. But that aside, that's my rant about that. I think that's unfair.
Oh, I will agree with that. I think it's the same with all manufacturers. They all do this. They even allow you to select the storage size when you're choosing to trade in, and then they give you the same price. So it's like, why are you even asking me what the storage is if you're just going to quote me the same price? And this is why usually I usually trade in my phones, but like with my 1 terabyte Galaxy S24 Ultra, when it comes time to upgrade that phone, I'm probably just going to have to sell it myself because they're going to give me the same amount for that as they would for the base model. So it is disappointing.
Exactly. And, you pay more money than someone who paid maybe 500 less than what you paid for it. And you both get the same thing. And to me, I think that is so insulting. Excuse my Espanol. So I'm starting off with a gripe, but gripe apart, though, the closest thing that I have to it, though, right now, is that my case for my Pixel XL, Pixel 9 Pro XL, was here on Wednesday, and I'm sitting here looking at it every time I want to look at the phone. Of course, the phone is not here. I pick up that case and baby,
You're like a kid who's going through his parents' closet like a month before Christmas. Like, I just want to look at my toys. I won't touch them. I just want to see what I'm getting.
Trust me, the
That's
case will
what
be
I
better than the thing that goes in it, like almost inevitably. So do you want to back up a spell then and talk, Warren, about the things that Google announced? What toys?
Yeah, so let's start with the little one, the watch. Something that I'm also happy about, and the watch is one of those things. Google went all out this time, didn't they? Basically, we have 5 devices, or you could say 6 devices, because you got the 2 watch sizes, and then you have the 4 phones. So a whole total of 6 items that were presented here. And unlike other,
don't forget the Pixel Buds.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be sitting here against you and Karine because that's your favorite thing. I just don't like putting things in my ear. So we got a total of 7. So we started with the watch, and I think that finally, Google did something right this year for everyone, if you think about it, because we finally have a couple sizes. Because the one thing that I hated about either the first watch from Google or the second iteration, both have to be about the fact that the sizes were just the same, something very girly. And I just don't feel like running around with a little girly thing on my wrist. And so I had never worn, I just never wore any of those watches. It's sitting in my drawer. But so finally, I'm going to be trading in my Pixel Watch 2 for the Pixel Watch 3, the big boy. And of course, I always get the LTE version. So they're giving me like 222 or somewhere in there, 200 something. I mean, it's one of those things. But then, of course, I'll be getting the $200 that I have for pre-ordering. And so when I put it all together, I'm paying like maybe $70 something for the watch. So I love the sound of this. But so that's my very first one that I'm really excited about. What are you guys' thoughts about the watch before we talk about the other devices, the phones?
So you buying the 45 or the 41, Warren? I imagine the 45.
Absolutely, it has to be the 45.
Yeah, you would go for the bigger watch.
Yeah.
Watches, I've never bothered. I can't get too excited about them. What do you think, John? You sort of think Android, sort of the Wear OS is pretty slow, don't you?
Yeah.
Are you going to bother?
I'm not, and it's nothing against the Pixel Watch exactly. It's just I'm already like on the fence about whether I should return this Galaxy Watch I just bought. Like I tried to use it, and then I just one day I forget to put it on, and then I'm like, oh, I don't need it, and then the day is over, and I'm like, I'm completely happy, even though I didn't have to wear that thing all day. And it's just like I tried to give myself to use it, and I'm not a watch person.
No, I'm not either. But I think for me, though, because it's an LTE one, I probably get to wear it. The only reason why I didn't wear the Pixel 1 or Pixel 2 watches was they were too little, and I didn't feel like I want to run around with something like that. So I'm going to try this one and see if I could use it for at least a month consistently and just let it grow on me. And then maybe I'll become a watch wearer again. I used to like to wear watches, but something changed.
I think I saw that they announced some new bands as well for the watches, which I was kind of excited about. I think that was something they were kind of lacking before. And then the thing that excited me, or what doesn't excite me about the Pixel Watch, sadly, that it does excite me about the Galaxy Watch, is I wish that Google would bring haptic time. Like as a blind user of the watches, like the thing that I use most, like during a meeting or something, would be the ability to use haptic time, and I really wish Google would bring that over, because it's something that I miss 100% if I use a Pixel Watch.
It was brought by Google maybe months ago to the Pixel
did they bring
Watch
it?
2, so I think. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Because
I missed
we
that.
published something about the review from someone on Accessible Android. You could just take a look.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Look at
it was not there when the watch was released, but I think they've added it since then.
Yeah, we did talk about it here on the podcast too. But the thing, though, I think that one of the problems that people were having, or I don't think the implementation was that as great as the other side. I don't remember what the problem is. It kind of maybe talks or something like.
Yeah,
I
what
don't
what I
remember.
don't like about it is that you have to have your screen on to do it, and if you have TalkBack on, as soon as you light up your screen, it starts yelling, and if you're trying to secretly check your time, it gives you away. So like you have to know ahead of time, like if you're going to be like incognito checking the time, you need to either mute TalkBack or turn it off before you go into your meeting or whatever you're doing. And
Exactly.
I wish you didn't. I wish it could work with the screen off.
So I think we're taking what Joe's point is in the micro, we can take to the macro, can't we? In that Samsung know what they're doing, Google don't. I think it's fair, isn't it? Is that a summation of where we are?
I don't think that Samsung does it any different than the Google's implementation.
We are not on Team Pixel, so we are allowed to compare Pixel products to other products.
Yeah.
Does it work better on a Galaxy Watch?
In my experience, so I didn't know the Pixel. So thanks for telling me that, Kareem, because I missed that announcement. But when I've used it on the Pixel Watch, the thing I like is that you can assign the just 2-finger gesture, like, and lay it on the face of the watch, and it doesn't. TalkBack doesn't just like John was saying, it doesn't yell out. So I've never had it misfire, which is, in fact, like I typically use Galaxy Watches or Apple Watches, and I actually prefer the Galaxy Watch to the Apple Watch because the Apple Watch does exactly the same thing that you guys are saying the Pixel Watch does. And that's like, I go to secretly check the time and VoiceOver says something. So to me, I prefer how Samsung does it, because you can just lay 2 fingers on there. It does what it needs to do. And, I can keep everything a secret.
Good. I'm glad
Nice.
Samsung.
Nice. Nice.
Do you want to talk about telephones, Warren? Because Google released some telephones, didn't they? Or they'll try again to make some.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's the biggest highlight. I want to call them the AI phones. I think if there's a different name for the Pixel phone, it has to be AI phone. And
Doesn't that sound a bit like iPhones?
yeah,
Like, if you do that.
it sounds like iPhone.
It does
It's
a bit,
kind of,
doesn't it?
it really does.
But does the AI stand for Apple Intelligence or something else?
Exactly. Or I don't know. Let's talk about the little guy first, though. The smaller Pixel 9, the regular Pixel 9, is the smallest, and yet in the same breath, the Pixel 9 Pro is the same size. The one thing that people have been talking about or wanting for some time now, because back in the day when we had the XL version of regular Pixel and then the regular size, people loved that because they were both exactly one and the same thing. And now I think it was as of Pixel 6 series that we lost that ability of having the smaller version with the same specs, everything having to be the same. And so finally Google heard that cry, and I think it was a nice move on their part. So if you want what the XL Pro has, you get the Pro. But if you don't want any of that, then you get the regular 9. But the good news is that both the regular 9 and the 9 Pro are the smallest sizes for those that would rather want something girly. John, are you into girly phones? I don't remember.
I sometimes I do like a smaller phone. Yeah, I'll even get it. I'm not lying. I'll even get it in pink if there's no more exciting color than that.
That's coming from the guy who has the Ultra. I thought that the Ultra ones were like the monsters.
Yeah, I like to mix it up. I like to have variety.
Yeah, see, for me, the smaller phones never appealed to me for some reason. And I know I still have a Pixel 4, and every time I go to pick that thing up, I'm kind of so terrified. Or Pixel 5, it may fall out of my hands. It's just such a little dinky thing. So for me, I think that Nexus 6 was what really, messed me up, because that was a huge phone. And ever since I had that phone, I never want to ever go back to a little small phone again. But let's talk about the RAM and all of that. John, before we talk about the RAM, though, you tend to be more on top of the prices than I am. We got a price hike this year, don't we?
Yeah. So basically, each model is $100 more expensive this year, and Google will try to tell you that that's not true because the Pixel 9 Pro is the same price as the Pixel 8 Pro from last year, but that's not really the case because the Pixel 9 Pro did not exist last year, because now we have the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL. So really the 9 Pro XL is the successor to the 8 Pro, and that now starts at $1,100 instead of $1,000. Of course, for $1,000 now you can get the 9 Pro, which is the smaller version, and also the base model. Even after having just gone from having just gone from 600 to 700 last year, now it goes up another 100 this year to 800. So, the Pixel 6 was $200 cheaper than or I should say the Pixel 7 was $200 cheaper than the Pixel 9 is now. So they start at $800. And of course, these are US prices, but you're probably seeing similar increases in all regions.
And my gripe, John, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, my gripe is that you're paying $1,100 for 128 gigs. So if you opt in for the 9 XL Pro or 9 Pro
Yes.
XL, and I think that's a lot of moolah for
It is
120.
ridiculous.
It's just
And
absolutely
now they're
ridiculous.
charging more for the upgrades. Whereas last year it was $60 to go from 128 to 256. Now it's $100 to bump up to 256. Then it's an additional 120 to go up to 512, and then it's another $230 to get to the 1 terabyte. So they're literally approaching Apple prices now. I think the maxed out 9 Pro XL with 1 terabyte is $1,550, whereas like an Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max 1 terabyte is $1,600. So just $50 shy of like Apple pricing. So
Oh,
it's getting
boy.
bad.
Yeah, and that's the one that I got. And the one thing that kind of, irked me is the fact that, okay, so for once I wanted something different. I wanted a different color. Last year, John, you got the bay blue, and I didn't realize that we had that in the 1 TB or something. And I was kind of beating myself over the head. And this year I was looking forward to getting that, and it wasn't there. And so I was even ready, John, to get like a rose colored one if it if it was
Yeah, you're like
1
you're
TB.
tired of Obsidian. Yeah.
Yes. But then, unfortunately, all that I could get for the 1 TB for the 1549, basically 1550. I like that number, 1550. Is the Obsidian, the black one, and so I went and purchased some kind of a colored casing for it. So just to make me feel like I have a different color. It's just unbelievable.
So what do we think about the specs of the storage aside, RAM and everything else?
The good thing is that all models have been upgraded. So as far as RAM goes, the regular Pixel 9 now has it's 12 gigabytes instead of 8 gigabytes, and then all the others have 16 instead of 12. So the 9 Pro, the 9 Pro XL, and the 9 Pro Fold, which we haven't even mentioned yet, but that's the folding model, which actually did not go up in price. So, it's $1,800, so it's very expensive, but at least it did not go up like Samsung's did, because Samsung's was $1,800 and went up to $1,900 this year. So I guess we could say it's good that they didn't raise the price on that, although it's still ridiculously expensive.
The thing that I saw about the Fold that sort of intrigued me, that people are saying it's a lot better, feels thinner, lighter, all the things you would want in a new iteration of the phone. But the thing that kind of caught me by surprise was, I heard the Fold 1 was amazing because of the fact that you could open it up and it was already in landscape. If you open a Samsung Fold, you have to turn it because it's in portrait mode when you open it up as in the tablet mode. And that was one thing I heard a lot of reviewers say Google got right. Well, now you have to do the same with the Fold. So basically, when you open it, it's in portrait mode, and then you have to turn it to get it in the landscape. I'm kind of surprised they made that change, but I think they did it because devs just weren't coming on board, in sizing the apps right. So, but it's I thought that was an interesting change from them.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. They were trying to force people to jump on the tablet bandwagon because it's no secret that Android has had a hard time getting app developers to develop app versions or tablet versions of their apps. So, they tried to do it that way and it didn't work. So I think they focused on making this second generation Fold more shaped, more to feel more like a regular phone when it's closed. And people are saying, from what I've heard, that it does feel more like a phone. I mean, it's only 10 millimeters thick, folded closed, so which is actually really thin. I mean, it's thicker than a regular phone, but not by too much. So
crazy engineering.
Yeah, and the screen is the same size exactly. It might even be the identical screen that they're using on the Pixel 9 Pro, the smaller version, the 6.3 inch screen. So it's more of a form factor while it's closed that people are used to dealing with. But yeah, when you open it, it's basically a square, which is kind of awkward. But I guess people are getting used to that square shape on foldables. If for nothing else, it's good for multitasking. It's not ideal for watching videos and that sort of thing, but that which obviously does not really apply to us. But it is nice to be able to have two basically full size apps side by side if you are doing some type of multitasking.
Talking about sizes, one of the things I understand is that the Pixel 9 Pro XL is a little bit both wider and taller than the Pixel 8 Pro.
And which phones have 1 terabyte versions? I'm guessing the 9 won't, will it?
No, it's actually only the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL. The Fold doesn't even have a terabyte version that I'm aware of. I think you can only get it in 256 and 512.
Yeah,
So did
no,
you say,
the Fold
the
doesn't
9
have
Pro
a
does?
terabyte.
Yeah,
9
then
Pro does. Yeah.
yeah. So if you want to get, like, there's literally no compromises this year. If you want the Pro phone in a smaller form factor, you can get it. You know, if you want to pay, it's not $1,550, it's only $1,450. But if you want to get that in 1 terabyte, you can.
Yeah, so one is paying $1,550 for the Pro XL because of the size and all of that, and then a little bit more battery. That's another thing though that sometimes these bigger phones give us is the battery, and the battery is a little bit more this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I hope that next week when we talk, that probably. No, I don't know that I'll be having it. I don't think so, but it will be at the stores anyhow. But we'll see if I have it by next week.
But bigger battery doesn't always mean better battery life, does it? Because it also means bigger screen. So that bigger battery has to do more work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this time around, though, the thing can go to one. I'm trying to remember what
Hertz.
that word is. There you go. Yeah, so it could save your battery if you're not. And for me, if I know John likes to crank up his, I keep mine kind of like 15% screen brightness, and frankly, I don't charge my Pixel 8 Pro every day. I don't. I charge it every other day, so it's good for me.
And do we still have pathetic charging speeds? Like, do we have 120 watt Xiaomi yet, or is it boring
No,
Yawnsville charging?
Still same exact charging speeds, I think.
45 this time.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
they finally
that is
bumped
better.
it up to 45, but you have to get it from them, or have to get one a charger that supports that. But
It doesn't come with the 45 watt charger, does it?
No, it's $30.
You literally shouldn't be able to advertise that. Like, if you can't put the thing in the box that does the thing you say it does, then you're not allowed to say that can be a thing. If you say it charges at 45 watts, you have to give me a 45 watt charger. Otherwise, then don't do it.
But if they tell you it charges wirelessly, do they have to give you a wireless charger?
Yep. Yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
If they tell you you can connect it to a computer to transfer your files, so they have to.
No, they don't have to give you a computer, because that's not a feature of the phone. No, that you have to draw a line somewhere. But they absolutely do have to give you the charging things, because that's pretty core to a phone. You need the battery charged. Like, you can't use it otherwise. They need to give you that and shouldn't advertise it.
I agree with Ed. Frankly, I think this wholesome idea that we don't give you a charger in the box, and then, making you to go look for some other wall charger, and who knows, it may not be compatible with your device. You could wind up harming that device. I think it's not a safe bet, if you ask me. But of course, we didn't cry about it, and these companies keep getting away with things like this. Makes me mad. It makes me feel like I want to move to France so that I'll have my chargers. Or South America or some place like that. Brazil.
Yeah, but we all know who started all of this, as usual. the bad company who starts stuff, and then everyone else just
The company
Yeah.
with courage.
Yeah.
I think that's your choice.
Yeah, the company with
courage
courage.
to do bad
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
I like that, John.
It's not. You can't blame Apple for what Google did. You know, if Google had integrity and Samsung had integrity and thought we should have chargers, they wouldn't do it. Like Apple can do what
we
they
know
want.
that,
You
we
ca-
know
you
that
can.
they just follow Apple.
Not really.
You
Well,
can,
Samsung
you can
will
always
say-
point
people-
at somebody else and say he started it. There's no law
Yeah.
against
So you
that.
don't have to. You don't have to do it. They do. Like
But we know that Samsung is, the closest follower. They try to do everything. Apple jumps
Oh,
off the cliff.
true.
Samsung is going to jump off the cliff. It's so uncanny.
I do love my
I
120
agree.
watt Xiaomi charger that came with my Xiaomi phone and charges it in 20 minutes. It's very good.
That's really nice. That's really nice. But at least we now have a 45 watt, and then the wireless one also went up. I think it's like 25 or 23. I think it's 25.
I know we've talked about this before, but I have no interest whatsoever in using wireless charging because I want to use my phone when it's on charge. And normally I don't use a headset, so I need my phone in my hand. So wireless charging would literally have to be somehow through the air for me to ever use it.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. So I went and got the Pixel stand, the wireless thing. I never once used it. I tried it and I set up the thing, but never used it. So I'm one of those that I don't care about fast charging at all, and I like to use a very, very slow cable. Takes mine a long time to charge, and of course, I like my phone charging up to like 84%, and I'm done. I don't never charge my phone up to 100 unless, of course, I'm doing something like yesterday when I was charging my phone. I was mowing my grass in the backyard. Of course, it's been there for like maybe 2-3 hours. It was like 100%. So that's one of the rare times that my phone would hit that, but I use a very slow cable.
Let's go on then to talk about the other features before we actually go back and think about whether we want any of these trinkets. And this is the AI that got announced at Made by Google 2024 and features to Google Gemini, some of which are either exclusive or free to Pixel 9 series, some of which are being rolled out generally. Warren, do you want to kick off on this?
So this was the main highlight of it. Like I said, this phone should have been called the AI phone, and we saw a lot of demos. And the one part that kind of got me cracking was when that guy was trying to demo something, and it's like when you're trying to demo something, something doesn't work. And I tell you, that pisses me off a lot of times. You're trying to show something that you know for surety that it works, and then you go to try to show someone, and it's like, no, I don't work.
I felt for him.
I felt sorry for that guy.
You know what though? I actually really appreciated it because Apple and other Samsung as well have gotten so theatrical on their events that I was like, this brings it back. It's like it makes me feel like they're genuinely are doing something like for an audience, and I just thought that was so cool. So even though I felt for him, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've seen from a tech company in a while. Like,
yeah, Apple and Samsung have been
feeling
pre-recording
sorry for him.
things. Yeah, have been
Yes.
pre-recording all their quote-unquote demos, and it's like, is it really a demo if you pre-recorded it? And if it went wrong, you could re-record it.
Exactly.
Kudos for doing it live.
We did just FYI, we pre-record our demos, John, and call them demos for the podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Mhm.
you're demonstrating something with a device on stage. It doesn't have to be pre-recorded. You need to do that live, and so kudos to Google
It
for
has let
doing
our
that.
secret out of the bag. Now people know we don't do everything perfectly in our demos.
So I really like that, and I think that the live mode, the whole idea that the Gemini assistant is going to be the new sheriff in town now. From now on, once it's fully rolled out, it will have that replacing the assistant. So I know there are a lot of people that, oh, I don't like the Gemini. Well, you know what? This is going to be the reality. Might as well start learning to love it because once everything is in place, I will have to say goodbye to the assistant.
See, I'm a simple guy, right? And there are things that Gemini can't do that the assistant can. But yet, Gemini is supposed to have deep integration with other Google apps to do amazing things. So why can't Gemini integrate with the Google Assistant to do the things that the Google Assistant can do?
Yeah,
I don't get this at
exactly.
all. So if the Google Assistant can play Spotify, because my Gemini can't, I've seen no evidence of a Spotify extension. I know some people have got it to work, apparently. But if Gemini can't do it, why can't it hand off to the assistant? Like, am I missing something? John, it sounds like you agree.
Yeah, it still can't do a lot. It won't even open websites. Like, you can't say open thiswebsite.com. It'll say, I can't open websites, but here's a link to
I know, yeah.
And it's like,
That's true.
so when Gemini can do everything Assistant can do, and it's just as fast at doing it as Assistant is, then I'll have no problem switching over.
But why does it need to replace the assistant? Why can't it, if it can integrate with Docs, why couldn't they have left both of them? You can pick which one you want to have, speak to, but surely it could integrate with the assistant API.
The shift has been to make Gemini be the one in all. So I can see why they're trying to get rid of the assistant, because in reality, let's be honest, if I look for something using the Gemini, I have more information. And so the things that the Gemini doesn't do are few and far between, if we're being honest. One of the opening of websites is one of those things. But just because it didn't open the website, although it even gives you the link that you could tap on, does not just mean that the Gemini is just very bad, like people want to make it sound like it's not.
No, but all I use the assistant for is the stuff Gemini can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally
like what? Like what?
Playing Spotify.
Yeah, exactly.
Not everybody plays.
Come on.
Why replace it? Why can't Gemini?
So just
hand
because
off
it doesn't
request?
do Spotify, then you're making it sound like there's a lot of things it doesn't do. Now we identify two. That makes sense to me. There are two things it doesn't do. Yeah,
lots of people are saying the assistant doesn't do. Gemini doesn't
search,
do a lot what
it can't search for within apps. You can't say to Gemini, search for Samsung order in Gmail, and it automatically brings up Gmail with all the things. You can't say to Gemini, search for blind Android users on YouTube, and it brings up YouTube already having searched for all. Like, Assistant can do a lot of really cool things that I use it for all the time. You don't even have to know the exact website. You can say to Google Assistant, open the Android beta website, and it'll open google.com/android/beta. Like, I don't even know the actual address for it because I don't have to. I just say to Google Assistant, open the website for, and it knows the website and it opens the website for me.
Yeah, but that goes back to the same idea that it's not opening websites right now. So it's the same thing. It's not another additional thing you are bringing in here, John.
But an instant result.
No, let's just be honest.
Is this hurting your feelings? Like, are you and Gemini best friends?
No, it's not. It's not hurting my feelings. I'm a fair guy. I like being fair. Just because something.
Well, I will say this:
one thing,
even though
we just want to poo-poo the whole thing.
So the thing is, all I'm saying is when I can use it the same way I'm used to using it, like, it's annoying to have to say, like, it's annoying to have to click on a link when you're used to it just opening the exact website for you, like. If you're used to doing, like, if I had to start plugging my phone in, that would be annoying to me because I use a wireless charger. Like, so it's like when it gets the same functionality, I'll switch over to it. But until then, I just have it in a web app on my home screen, and I'll use Gemini for Gemini things and use Google Assistant for Google Assistant things. But there's no denying that Google is all in with Gemini, because I think I saw it somewhere. I think it might have been the Waveform podcast. Somebody mentioned that even on these Pixel 9 devices during the boot, like the Google logo actually changes into a Gemini logo during the boot of the phone. So
Because it's an AI phone.
there's no denying that at some point Google Assistant will not be an option. And let's just hope that they've made it Gemini do all the Google Assistant things before that happens.
I mean, they've told us they're going to replace one with the other, but they haven't told us why. Like, if the assistant can do some things, why can't it integrate like it does with Docs, like Gemini does with Docs and Mail and Calendar? Why can't they just leave it there and have Gemini talk to assistant? Like, wait, I don't understand.
Well, so my thinking is this, and I agree with what you guys. There are things that Gemini doesn't do as well as the assistant does. For example, I could say open a website, and it'll open that website for me. Right now, those are one of the things that it doesn't do too well. And I've seen instances where I would say, hey, open an app, and and it will say, it's not on there, or I can't find it, or I can't do that. And yet in the same breath, a few seconds later, ask it the same question and it will do it. So it's still learning. It's just something that we need to get used to. It's going to get better. That's all I can say. But the reality is that whether we like it or not, this is going to be the default.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about some of the specific features and apps that they've mentioned. One of them was the new, I don't remember what it's called exactly, but it transcribes your calls for you. Call notes, is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, yes.
And that's kind of a cool feature, but the thing I don't like about it is that it announces to the callers that I don't know what it says, but it basically makes an announcement. This call is being transcribed or something along those lines.
Well, it has to do that so that if the other person doesn't want to, of course, because if I'm having a conversation with you, John, and maybe I was thinking about saying something.
No, I know. But
that is why Meet has to say it's being recorded.
Mm-hmm. It's a privacy thing. I know.
Exactly.
It's just annoying because you could just put your phone on speakerphone and have another phone recording it and transcribing it, and you don't have to tell anybody anything.
And that's exclusive to the 9 series, isn't it? That's not a Gemini feature, or have I got that wrong?
Right, that's correct. And while we're talking about Gemini, one thing we forgot to mention is if you buy the 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL, or 9 Pro Fold, you get a free year of Gemini. What's it called, Warren? The
Gemini Advanced.
Yeah, Gemini Advanced.
Yeah,
the 2 terabyte tier of Google One, basically, with all the Gemini features. You get that for a year. Yeah, but not if you get the 9, the regular Pixel 9.
So the problem with the Gemini replacement of the assistant is that Gemini is still unable to make some basic things. It's not regarding opening websites. It's not regarding the read aloud feature or something. It's regarding the basic, very basic things. Like I was asking it to tell me the difference between my time, local time, and the time of another country. And it did it wrong. So if I go to the voice search, the regular voice search, it will just do it right. So basic stuff it can do. Other than that, sometimes you ask it to spell something and it will not spell it because it considers that this word is a rude word or something like that. So we did this before this demonstration in the group. Do you remember, guys? When we asked it to
it was the word stupid.
Yeah, it just gave us
it would not do it.
It's not good to say the word stupid. It's insulting. Okay, I'm not asking you if it's insulting or not. I'm asking you to spell it.
Oh boy.
So this is really the problem. I know they are trying to just have their place in the AI thing, but they are forcing this on people. And at the same time, it's not ready. All of this is not ready, so they should wait instead of doing this, because this will hurt Google. Like the AI stuff in the search, which was suggesting that people add glue to the pizza. So I think we already have problems with all of this. So they just should wait.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I can see why Google is doing that. We are now in a society where everybody's so touchy about everything, and so they're being very careful. They could get sued, and we know Google's been in a lot of hot waters. So they're just trying to make sure that they're not doing anything that would offend someone, because people will always find something to sue someone about. So I can see why they wouldn't want the word stupid spelled, but yet in the same sense, it's stupid to not tell me how that word is spelled, because I'm not calling anyone stupid. I want the spelling for the word. But yeah, they kind of, it's like saying it, what type of person is in this picture. It's not going to tell you, because it's going to come across as you're being racist or trying to say something about race. So I can see where they're coming from. It's all from political correctness and all of that. But I'm surprised that yours doesn't tell you the difference between your time and some other country. Mine tells me if I ask it to.
No, it did, but it was wrong.
It was wrong?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing about these, and this goes for all AI models. You have to be careful, because they talk to you very confidently, and I mean, this is always how it's gone for even when you do a Google search yourself. You have to fact check things. You can't just take everything as a fact. So, same goes for these AI models. You got to be careful.
Yeah, but voice search will just, these things are usually right, this type of information. Other than that, it tells you, like, according to Wikipedia, if you're asking about a fact, for example, so it will tell you, according to Wikipedia, that this is like 1 or 2 or 3 and that stuff.
Yeah, that's the good thing about Google Assistant. Yeah, because you'll know.
Do it.
Yeah, you'll know where it's getting the information. Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little bit cautious about AI. I'm not big into AI. God rest his soul. I know Austin, that was his thing. I'm not sold on AI as it is. I think perfect AI for me is when we're able to do a lot of things, offline. I think that's what I would like to see, and that's where I'm coming from.
But another thing they announced while we're on the subject of Gemini is Gemini Live, which is where you can basically have a conversation with it. You don't have to keep submitting new queries. You could just interrupt it if you want and start saying another thing. The only question I have about this is, how accessible is it going to be? Because we all know when Gemini first came out, you could not even use it with TalkBack. Like the button, you could literally not even press the button. So, if something weird happens with Gemini Live where TalkBack starts talking and then Gemini thinks you're interrupting it and it just goes crazy, like that would not surprise me. So I'm hoping something like that doesn't happen, because it would be kind of cool to have a conversation. Again, don't take it too seriously. Don't if it tells you to put glue on your pizza, don't do it. But it is a cool thing, and I think they have like 9 different voices or something now that you can choose from.
10.
Nice. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So you brought up a very good point there, John, because the whole idea of TalkBack talking, and I know you and I have beaten this dead horse to death as to how we would love to see as soon as you invoke any assistant, whether it's Gemini, Google Assistant, or whatever assistant it is, we want
voice typing. Yeah.
Yes, just kind of put the screen reader in a temporary, suspense or whatever.
I hate
just
to say it, but
I
actually don't hate to say it. iOS does this. VoiceOver, when you're doing voice dictation, it mutes VoiceOver. So, and that's how it should be. And even in the case of like Gemini Live, like if the microphone is staying open to the point where you can interrupt it and ask something new, then TalkBack. Obviously, I'm making assumptions. It might work, but if it doesn't work, they should try to figure out how to make it work, because it can be annoying.
This is one of the things that kind of kept me away from a Pixel to an extent, is that I know we're going to get in, or maybe we're going to get to Pixel Studio in a second, the new app that they announced. But things that are Pixel exclusive have not been very accessible in the past. So like Magic Eraser, the audio eraser that they talked about, and that's a frustrating thing for me, because I think like these features are super cool. Like audio eraser, you look at something like Audio Lab, which I use to actually edit a few things for the podcast, on the fly on my Android device is super cool. And why Google can't figure out how to do something on the Pixels is kind of baffling to me, to make it accessible. But that's the thing for me, that like when we look at these new features, it's sort of frustrating, because I sit and wonder to myself, is this actually going to be accessible? And I shouldn't have to do that in today's time. And yet here we are. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the AI race. Like Google's basically, because of ChatGPT and the Meta Llama models and stuff like that, like they're forced to just like go as fast as possible. And I think their mindset, they won't admit it, but their mindset is get this stuff out as quick as possible, and we'll work on accessibility later. And that's just how it's going to be. It is disappointing. I agree, it is disappointing.
I mean, Joe, that's one of the things that's kept me off Pixels. The other thing that's kept me off them is that they've been rubbish as devices. So that was a second thing why I haven't bought them. It's interesting, isn't it, though? Because I don't think you can have a scenario where talkback is muted for Gemini Live, because that could be quite a long conversation and stuff might happen on your phone you need to know about. Like, it's fine if you're dictating a text message, but something else has got to happen, I think, if it is an ongoing conversation. I don't think muting talkback can quite be the answer. Not quite sure what the answer is, if the microphone is going to be always open, but like that conversation could be half an hour, couldn't it? And you're going to need to know what's happening on your phone.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not going to be sitting there for half an hour talking to
You're not.
Then I have a problem.
But it's live, right?
Then you need to get a friend.
No. So
you need to get a friend at that point.
Back up. So one of the things Gemini Lives, as it will do, is help you practice for an interview. So that might be quite a long time.
Yeah.
But, that was the use case.
I mean,
So
there could maybe be an exception for like notifications or something. The way I see it is like, if I'm not interacting with my screen, I don't want TalkBack to talk. Like if I touch the screen, then I want it to start talking again. But if something changes on the screen that I'm currently on, I don't want to know, because it's just going to be reading to me the stuff Gemini is saying anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they need to fix it, but I'm just not sure a straight muting is quite the answer. I think there might have to be a bit.
I agree.
I hate walking backwards, but there was something about the watch that we didn't mention, I think, which was the very first for a watch, that pulse detection that Google implemented. Yet in the same breath, it's not available in the States. So for once, we have it available in some European countries, but not in the States. So kudos to Google for making it first in some European countries and not giving it to us here in the States.
And just to be clear, this is lack of pulse detection. So if you're dead, it will contact the authorities to come collect your body.
Exactly.
And to be fair, you probably don't care as a watch owner. Literally don't care, do you?
No, I'm being silly, but this actually could save somebody's life. So I don't want to joke too much about it, because when you do lose pulse, there is a certain amount of time that you can be recovered.
Exactly.
You can recover from that. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So while this probably is going to throw off all kinds of false alarms and silly situations, it could save somebody's life. So it is a good feature.
So we have a key question, everybody, and I'm going to go around everybody. And this is not an affordability question. It's if you could, and indeed if you have, would you buy any of these Fisher-Price devices? Warren, I think you would and can. What have you bought?
I already did. Like I said, I have a case that I, take a look at just to remind me of what's coming. I got the 9 XL Pro.
And a watch?
I got the big boy, of course.
John Boy, what are you doing? Anything, or are you sticking or twisting?
I am most interested in the buds. you guys know me. I'm an earbuds kind of guy, so I'm.
You like sticking them in your ears.
Yeah, I do.
Let's-
So my biggest gripe with all generations of Pixel Buds previously is the latency. It was just bad. So if they've corrected that, I like all of the everything else about them. So yeah, it's as far as the phones. Well, obviously I'm not interested in the watches, and the phones. I haven't made a decision yet. Like I keep going back and forth on what I should do. I have the Pixel 8. Should I just trade it in towards a regular Pixel 9, or should I go with the Pro? But I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Warren says he doesn't like sticking things in his ears, but what he does like sticking in his ears is his fingers whenever anyone criticizes Pixels.
Especially when it comes from a belly acher.
Sally, I take it you're not in the market for any of this nonsense.
Well, no, I'm happy.
Karine, how about you?
Putting aside the fact that it is not available in my country and it's so much limited regarding the regions that it is available in, I will not buy this thing even if the phones are in Lebanon and even if I can afford them, because I will go for Samsung phone for an S24 Plus or Ultra and not the Pixels, which is something that I'm not gonna have any second thought about. And the other thing, if I'm able to buy the Buds, but we should wait for John to see what his review will be. So then we'll see if what they were saying is just nonsense, just talking, nothing more than that, or if it was something real and if it's really a good product.
And young Master Joseph, I don't want to preempt your Android journey story, but will you be pulling out your digital wallet to buy any of these trinkets?
So I think the Buds would interest me. I like the fact that they put a speaker on the case, and I think that's great for Find My, and if it works at all for if you're put it on a Wi-Fi charger, a wireless charger, that'd be awesome. So that interests me. I actually, the Pixel Fold has been, I'm a foldable guy, has been speaking to me. I like what I'm reading in reviews. I would be willing to try it out. That's a lot of money, but yeah, those are the two things that interest me the most.
Nice. You say you're a foldable guy. Does that mean you travel on aircraft in overhead lockers? Do you fold yourself up and climb on the seat?
Cheaper way.
Yeah.
You can sleep up there. They have sleeping quarters above those.
Doesn't sound very comfortable.
Careful when you open lockers, contents may have moved. Contents may have turned over to get a bit of a better grip.
But yeah, talking about availability, Karen, at least Google has added. We used to have 12 countries. I think we now have 20 countries where these things are available in. So slowly but surely, it will get there.
And when it does,
how many countries do we have?
Over 200.
Well, 200 plus, but
in the world. Yeah.
But the reality is, is always
the reality is not amazing. The reality is not amazing. Let's face it.
The reality is that you just need to stop defending Google and Pixels immediately.
Yes, never stop doing it.
And if you quit defending Samsung, then we'll be on the same page.
No, I do. I see
everybody likes what they like. You got to defend the one that you like, and I'm defending the part that I like. So there's no sin in
but
this
you're
one at
not
all.
objective at all.
No, I am very objective. There are praises of Samsung that I've sang praises of Samsung. I haven't heard you sing one praises about the Pixel phone. Hello.
Speaking of availability, and Joe mentioned the Fold, I did notice because I've been going back and forth on all these phones, and I had noticed that it's actually selling out on the not everywhere probably, but on Google's website. You can no longer pre-order most of them. The only thing that was available last time I checked was the 256 gigabyte version in Obsidian. The other three models, both 512 models, and then the white one in both storage sizes is already out of stock.
Interesting.
Does anyone else just like the word obsidian? I just quite like it. I don't really care what
It's
it
a
means.
cool.
Yeah, well,
Did
it
you notice
sounds
I
cool.
said white instead of porcelain though? Because that
Yeah.
reminds me of a toilet. Like, why are you gonna
Yeah,
call your phone
Yeah.
porcelain?
I don't
Well, it's a
know.
pixel, so you're going to throw up over it, I imagine, when you realise buyer's remorse. So that might be one reason to call it porcelain.
Well, you sit on the porcelain thing all the time, the little commode.
Exactly. And that's
The
what
porcelain throne.
Yeah.
Pixel royalty.
Oh, brother.
Do we want to talk about release dates? Do we know the release dates? The UK, they look a bit confused to me. I've had a look.
Yeah, so next week, is it the 23rd, Warren?
22nd it says in the UK.
22nd,
Okay,
yeah.
22nd, but the only
yeah.
ones coming out on the 22nd are the Pixel 9 and the Pixel 9 Pro XL.
That's the
Yeah,
same in
yeah.
the UK as well.
Yeah, you actually have to wait until I think it's September 4th or 3rd, one of those two, to get the smaller Pro, the regular Pixel 9 Pro, or the Pixel Pro Fold.
And the same goes for the watch.
Which one of the same goes for the watch?
That is, you have to wait till September.
September, yeah.
Okay.
And the
Because we
buds.
gave a range of
September as
dates
well,
then.
yeah.
So you can't just
Mhm.
go the same goes for the watch.
Yeah, it's all about timing.
It is. TikTok. Oh no, that's another thing, isn't it? That's a Chinese thing.
Well, I have a question for you, Pixel lovers. Well, the devices are coming with Android 14. So is the 7 years of updates, which is 7 versions, meaning that Android 15 will be the first one? Or what would be the case? So it would be 6 instead of 7?
So I've seen people talking about this, and my take on it is it doesn't matter what the phone ships with, it matters the date it ships on, because Google's not promising 7 OS updates, they're promising 7 years of OS updates. So what really matters is, for the people that care, 7 years from now, when is Android 22 going to be released? Is it going to be released before August 22nd or after August 22nd? That's how you're going to know whether or not you're getting it. It's not that you're only getting 7 updates. If that version of Android comes out before then, you'd technically be getting 8 Android updates, because you'd be going from 14 to 22. But I don't think it's going to, a lot can change in 7 years. But if in 7 years from now Google's update schedule is similar, you probably won't get 22. So if that's why you were on the fence, whether you were going to get Android 22 or not, maybe you should wait till next year.
Warren, isn't the first time that they release the Pixel, the main Pixel, before the Android version? They usually release it with the new Android version.
Something happened this year. We've never seen a situation where a Pixel phone was released with the current running OS. Usually, they're the first ones that debut with the new OS iteration. And so something happened this year. But like John says, for example, if you look at the Pixel 5a, for example, and comparing it to its counterpart, the regular Pixel 5, you realize that the Pixel 5a has one more OS support when compared to the Pixel 5 because of when it came out.
I just want to meet the person that's keeping their phone 7 years, because people talk about it all the time, but I've literally known no one who keeps a phone 7 years.
Well, unless you're me, that like to keep them in a museum. So like the other day, out of a nostalgia, I went and grabbed my Nexus 6. And, that thing is still working. And that's from 2014. That's 10 years ago. Unbelievable. You still have some battery in it. Battery is good. I charged it and, played with it. It lasted like a little over 3 hours. That's from 10 years ago.
You just need to build display cases and have be a little curator over there at the museum and let people walk in,
And I have, the first one and all of that. I have all of them. So I really like the whole idea. Sometimes I'm a little bit nostalgic and I go through this, and I picked up the HTC 10 this morning. I'm like, I turned it on and it came on. You're stupid. And now it's a walk down memory lane. This is my favorite segment of the podcast. I'm talking, of course, about the Android journey story. If you're a listener and would like to come on live and talk about your Android journey story, but would rather record and send it to us, then contact us via email at contactus@blindandroidusers.com. And now, here's this week's episode guest to talk about their Android journey story.
And now we have the return of a very popular segment that we haven't had for a while, and it's the Android journey story. And I'm delighted to say that Joe Hodge, who you've heard from already, is here to talk through his Android journey. And I'm going to pass it over to Warren, because this is, as he will tell you, his favorite segment.
Thank you so much, Ed. This is my most favorite part of the episode whenever we do have one. And you guys out there listening, there's nothing to be afraid of. Come on and tell us about your journey. But I'm so thankful that Joe is joining us today and talking about his Android journey story. Joe, why don't you take us down that memory lane and, all the bumps in the road and all the stuff you felt like throwing something out the window. Don't hold back. Don't be bashful. Let it loose, boy.
There's been many. I actually
Go
love
for
this, 'cause you were talking earlier about some nostalgic devices that I was like, wow, that takes me back. So I think my first ever Android device that I owned was a Samsung S9. I had it for like 2 weeks. I traded it in for the Note 9 because I wanted something bigger. And I loved it. Like, at the time you had voice assistant from Samsung, you had TalkBack from Google. It was kind of competing. So I always think of screen readers as a tool, right? So like, having more of them never hurts. And I thought it was kind of a cool approach. And, Samsung actually had at the time, like a light detector and voice assistant, I believe. They had some interesting things that I had not seen a company try. And so, and they had the Magic Tap, of course, from iOS and different things. So it was actually really cool. And then for me, what's always sort of happened is, to be fair, I started with iOS on a touchscreen, and I always sort of get into a little bit of my journey, and I go, I want to, go back. Like, this is a little strange feeling. And so, off and on through the years, I think I tried a Note 20 Ultra, I believe they called it the Note Ultra or whatever they were calling it at the time. And then I tried, on the Pixel side, I've tried a Pixel 6a, a Pixel 3 back in the day. I've also gannered into OnePlus. What I like about Android that often gets overlooked in mainstream reviews, it's one reason I really kind of look forward to listening to the Blind Android podcast, off and on, is Ed will do Xiaomi phones, different. I love seeing the skins and what they offer because, for example, Samsung offers separate app sounds, which to my knowledge, no one else offers at this point. And, the ability to like split app volumes. So you could have like Spotify be at 50% and TalkBack be at 100%. That's the skins offer on all these OEMs, like just different things. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about Android is you could grab, a new device tomorrow and it feels a little different, and it has maybe something you like, maybe some things you don't like. But it's a different feeling phone each time. The other thing for me, as I've gotten more into my Android journey here, is with flippables, foldable phones. I'm using a Flip now, but the ability that the fact that you can have different form factors. A lot of companies, if you're in iOS or wherever you might be, just don't offer a variety of phones. Phones keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Small phones don't really exist too often these days. That's why one reason I like Pixel, the event, is the for what John said, and I think Warren, you mentioned it, is the Pixel Pro. You have it's the same phone as the XL, so it's like you have a choice, which I think choices are great for people, not one size fits all in these things. I'm going to the gym now a lot more, trying to get in shape, and I'm telling you, when you have that flip in your shorts pocket, it is so much. It's like you can't even like imagine how much of a difference that is compared to like a candy bar phone.
Yeah.
You know, it's little things like that really do make a big difference. So I would say my Android journey has been complicated. You know, I've given up a few times. If I could go back and tell the young Joe Hodge something that I know now, and Warren, you're gonna love this, it would be that use Explore by Touch, my man. Use Explore by Touch, because I will say, like, I came over like trying to duplicate what I was doing on iOS, so, you know, swiping and going from item to item, or, you know, just not buying into the whole Explore by Touch experience. And that's something I've been doing this time. And it is, I've listened to enough of your demos, Warren, and folk, like all the other folks here as well. And it's just, Explore by Touch for me has made a difference. Like, I still think you should be able to swipe and have it be reliable and fast, but it is what it is. And you know, it's better on some phones than others, to be fair. So but I would say Explore by Touch has helped me tremendously. And then for me, with the reason I kind of come back to Android, and, you know, sort of, it always is a fan favorite for me, or it's always sort of in my mind, is the freedom. You know, like VPNs, you know, allow for split tunneling. You know, that's it. On iOS, it's all or nothing. I mean, heck, even on Windows now, a lot of times it's all or nothing. Sometimes with different programs. So I love the fact that Android is still kind of that. You know, there's so many settings I can tweak. I know Kareem usually does commentary, and I haven't really been playing with that lately. I've just kind of wanted to, since I switched back, you know, kind of as my primary phone to Android, I wanted to just really spend time with TalkBack. And that's another thing. I think sometimes, you know, when you go to something new, you know, just pick a screen reader and go with it for a while. Otherwise, I think if you start messing with multiple screen readers, it can overwhelm you a little bit. Learn the things it does well, things it doesn't, and then if you need another tool, you know, get Prudence, get commentary, whatever, and give it a go. So that's a little bit of my journey, but it's like I said, been complicated, but also been fun. I think I annoy my wife, because I'll be like, she's like, why isn't your iMessage working? I'm like, well, switch back.
Oh, boy, I love it. And Joe, you mentioned something here, though, and it's one of the things that I constantly hear. Oh, Android is so fragmented. And I said, you know what? That is the strength of Android, because I will hate to have one single phone. Or, you know, for example, I know, you know, Ed the Bellyacre doesn't like the Pixel. Just imagine if all we have is the Pixel phone. That will bore him to death. Or if all we have
cry. I'd literally cry.
Exactly.
He'd go back to iOS.
I would.
Exactly.
I'd be there in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Exactly. Or if all we have is a
Heartbeat in the
Samsung.
Apple Health app, I'd be there.
All we have is a Samsung phone, and I'll be banging my head up against the wall. But, you know, frankly, I like that fragmentation, because it's where the strength of Android is. You like something from Samsung, and I've said Samsung has great hardware and all of that. You want that great hardware, by golly, go for a Samsung phone. But you want a nice experience with the software. And by the way, the Samsung software has really been very great. And a lot of things in Android, we give thanks to Samsung, because they come from Samsung. And there are some things that come from Samsung. And then, so they copy each other. But then we have that, if you don't like Samsung, go for Pixel. If you don't like it, go for OnePlus or go for Sony. If you're Ed, you want to pay $2,500 for that phone that came out in 2021. Unbelievable. Thought a Pixel is expensive. I think about $2,500. But
it wasn't. Sony wasn't 2,500.
No, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
2,500.
Well, I'm talking about the US pricing. It was 2,500. The one that came in 2021, I'm not talking about the subsequent ones, but the one that came out in 2021 was
Xperia Mark
2,500.
III. It wasn't here. It wasn't 2,500 here. Happily.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
but
yeah.
you
We got a
see,
better UK price.
exactly. So see, that's what we have. So if you don't want to spend too much money, you can get an A series. Like great
Yes. Yeah.
A55 that Kieran has. I mean, you can go wrong. These days, the lines have been blurred to where whether you have a flagship or regular, mid-ranger or whatever that I call them, frankly, the performance is just the same in so many aspects. So that's the beauty about it. You want something from Realme, you want something from Xiaomi, like it demonstrated. And I've always wanted to try a Xiaomi phone.
Me
I
too.
guess maybe one of these days I'll just have to jump on Amazon and say, hey, give me one of those cat phones. Meow. You know? Yeah. Well, so Joe, what did you not like about one of your devices that maybe made you want to kind of throw it out the window?
Yeah,
For
why
example.
do you keep going back to iOS? Let's just ask that question.
Oh,
Because Joe,
thank you.
because I've been me and Joe have been talking for a few years now, and he's one of those guys. He's similar to me, whereas I'm jumping between Android devices, like Pixel, OnePlus, Samsung. Like I'm jumping around between all. But he not only does he do that, but he goes also back to iOS, and I even think his main number still is an iPhone right now. But he always has Android, around. He's got the he just got the Z Flip 6, and he recorded a review for us, which we're gonna include in next week's episode. And he has it, he's using it, and he just likes to have options. So he has gone back and forth. He's had a tablet and different things. So yeah, Joe, what is it? And you can be honest. What is it that makes you stay on iOS?
Yeah, tell us who is that woman on the Fruitvale side that is keeping you down, my boy? Someone is holding you down. Tell me who
Is
that
it the wife?
lady is.
Is it the wife in iMessage?
No, so I've often wondered this about myself too. I think it maybe I get bored, with myself, so like I mentioned in the top, I think iOS kind of feels like home to me because it was the first touch screen I ever play with and
Yeah.
got used to, and I think there's something to that to an extent, but I think when I've left Android to kind of Warren's and your question, John, like the reasons I've left Android to kind of go back to iOS in the past has been like I'll be using an app. Like it could be something as simple like our cable TV app that we don't have a TV in the house. We just watch through our phones or tablets or whatever. And so like it may just be the app is slower on Android, or it may be that they don't offer audio description and the iOS app does. I know for my health, I went through a health issue a few years ago, and my chart that we use in the United States, like there's features that the iOS app has that the Android app doesn't. And it's frustrating because I think people should be able to choose whichever platform they want. I use a journal called Day One, and on iOS it allows me to record audio. On Android it doesn't. There's like these little like weird and I guess I could record like in voice notes or voice record or something like that, and like then send it over to Day One, like do an upload, but it's more work, right? And so it's just always like something like that where it's something in an app or something that I feel like I'm missing. I think for a while I had a hard time finding a good sports scores app that read with TalkBack well. I know a lot of people just use Google and like search out that particular game, but I'm a big fan of like a whole league of sports. So I just want to like have a screen where I can see all the scores. But I've kind of found one on Android I like called The Score. That's what I use a lot. But so I think there's always just like something like that where I go, man, I'm missing this feature on iOS that just hasn't been brought to the Android app side. That kind of brings me back. And the other thing is, I think sometimes I get in a mood. Warren, I fought Explore by Touch for many years. I just did. I was like, I shouldn't have to do this all the time. I mean, I always use Explore by Touch to an extent. Like I find what I'm looking for, then I swipe to where I need to get to. But now that I'm sort of using Explore by Touch, like I'm literally just dragging my finger around the screen like you're supposed to, for news articles and stuff. And it makes some huge difference on responsiveness from TalkBack. And I think that would be another big key. Over the years, I think TalkBack has had iterations where responsiveness goes way down.
Yeah.
And I would say too, one of the biggest frustrations I have, if I'm being honest, is communication. So I've talked to a lot of my friends who do Android and iOS, and Google Messages, and I know you can, back in the day, it used to be even more open than it was now, or seems to be now. Like you could do like Signal, you could do, I think even like Facebook Messenger allowed you to use just SMS and stuff, and that seems to have changed last few years. But Google Messages, for example, is kind of a hot mess when I've used it a little bit. Like you have the bug where if your focus is in the message list, it starts reading all if something were to come in and change the screen, or if you bring up the keyboard. I've seen that, and then just moving around the Google Messages. I don't know. I guess I was always a Samsung Message person, and I know that's still out there, but they are pushing Google Messages more. To your point, Warren, I always try to use what people, what's on the phone, like what's native, and I think like that's been somewhat of a pain point. And the final thing would be email. I've long advocated for Gmail to fix its like weirdness. I was using Braille screen input even like today, and it's like randomly spitting out words to me. Like I think it's like trying to do predictive text, but then I can't really interact with that from the Braille keyboard, or at least I don't think I can. It's just not intuitive. And then if you write a whole email and you make a mistake, like getting back to edit that in the actual email client is a little bit of a pain. So what I end up doing is writing it in Keep Notes because it's just a lot easier, and then copying it over. That was a John suggestion. Thank you. And so I'll write it.
I do that too. It's Gmail is bad. It's been bad for a while.
You can just not use Gmail, folks. Like,
yeah,
that is what I would do.
So to your point, Ed, like you did a podcast on Aquamail demo of that, which I do use, at times. But then Aquamail, you don't. Last time I checked, it didn't have actions, right? So like, there's always a give and take that you have to do. Where like Gmail has built-in actions, it's beautiful. Like I love the actual design of it, like in the inbox. But then you get to compose, and it's like it's a hot mess again. So it's like, those are the things.
I see where you're crying.
You have to think how much quicker actions are than other things, though, because
Aquamail currently doesn't have actions, but I mean, using it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward, even though it doesn't have actions. I mean, composing is really, really easy.
Because like, let's think what an action does, right? You flick up to an option and double tap it. You can double tap and hold on Aquamail, and if you know where your option is on the screen because you explore by touch, then is actions quicker? I'm not sure it is.
Well, on Aquamail,
I think that
it is a little bit quicker, but
I think the people who like actions is the fact that okay, I know I have this thing in focus, and I know that if I swipe down, it'll give me whatever action, so I can see where they're coming from. Versus if say I long press on, I know that my toolbars pop up near the top. So
but if your action option is two actions down, then Aquamail is probably quicker, isn't it?
In a sense it's the same, but unless you know that when you long press something, the stuff is the pop-up is near the top of your phone. If you don't have that idea, then I can see where actions may be more intuitive for someone who knows I just have to swipe down till I get to what I want.
Actions are good. They don't get me wrong. Actions are good, but they're not always the panacea that
no.
Because your preferred action, it might be 3 swipes and a double tap. Whereas
that's fair.
Yeah. But Joe, I see where you're coming from, because little things like this could be a huge deal breaker. For example, you are talking about certain apps that were not available for you, and I can see how that could be a problem. And we've been talking about the subject matter of GPS apps, and the guys on the Fruitvale side seem to have it better than what we have on Android, and I can see how that could be a deal breaker.
You know what I'm excited about, Warren, with that, and John and I have been talking about this, and for the first time in a while, I think we're going to get to a point. So like with things like glasses coming out, like the Meta Ray-Bans have been a huge hit in the blind world, I think, recently, and I think like, so what happens is the blind I'm just going to call it like blind tech folks have often went with Apple just because it's the biggest user base of blind folks, and then they kind of ignore us over here on Android, right? But I think with like Meta or any other company that does glasses, I don't want to just leap it into one, but as that grows, I think it's kind of cool because it will lessen like I was telling John, like I took the Meta Ray-Bans out and used it just to ask like what was in front of me as I'm walking past stores, and I didn't have to even use my phone. So like I would actually use Lookout probably more. I think Lookout was better, but still, the point is I think when these things happen, like as we're growing in this space, it's going to open up Android to more people because of the fact that they're not going to be reliant on it for GPS, for figuring things out around them. So
that totally makes sense. And frankly, these wearables are going to be a game changer,
Yeah.
most especially you have glasses that could just do all of these things. Because when it comes to navigational stuff, we all navigate differently. So I happen to be one of those that I don't give a rip about, POIs. I don't want to know McDonald's is behind me to the left. I don't give a rip. If I want food, I want to ask for it, but I don't want the clutter. I want to go to John's house. I just want to figure out how to get to John's house. That's what I want. Yeah.
And that's true. I think when we're talking about a sort of an Android journey, I think usability, everybody, like what Ed finds important or what Warren finds important is not going to be what John finds important. I think it's or Kareem. So like I feel like we all are different, and I think like we have to sort of keep that in mind. Like I was talking to the folks at Oko that's on iOS for detecting light traffic signals.
Yeah,
and
I asked him to bring it to Android, and
Yeah.
he was giving me stories, and then I told him we're not talking about 2015. The phones have changed.
Yeah, and I mentioned like even if you just target Pixel and Samsung, like just look at those two high-end cameras, right? I mean, you're gonna get most of the people. I mean, I do understand there's different camera variations and things, but it's just I don't know. I just wish that companies would pay more attention to Android because there's a lot there. And as I've been working with an appliance maker, I don't think I can say who, to look at like washers, dryers, ovens, and these kind of things. And I was actually I told them that yesterday, the Android app is better, hands down. I mean, just for controlling the appliances in your house, it just worked there. The app developer who did the Android app did a lot better than the person that did the iOS app. So,
Nice.
so I always just use these things as tools, and I think, that's the thing is just, I think the days of like trying to, we can do it in fun, right? Like we make fun of the other side and fun, but I think ultimately you have to kind of look at these as these things as tools and what helps you get the job done. I'm never gonna criticize somebody for using a different thing than I do to get their thing done better. So
speaking of hopefully about to embark on a degree of criticism anyway, Jay, do you have a difference in terms of how well notifications work across Android or iOS?
So, actually, strangely, Ed, iOS has changed this in iOS 18, so they're grouping notifications together now. So it feels a lot like what Android's doing. They've kind of copied Android on that. So I think it's getting a lot closer. Now, of course, Apple, you can adjust it and get it back to the old way. But if I had to pick a preference, I do like the Apple way. The other thing that happens on Android to me, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, like if you've ever compared, but like I'll have DoorDash on my iPhone, DoorDash on a Pixel, Samsung, it doesn't matter.
It'll be delayed on Android.
It's delayed. Yeah, like why does it? Yeah.
Like, and you change all the things that supposedly stop it being delayed. You turn off battery optimization, dose mode, or whatever they used to call it, and it's still delayed. Like it needs not to be delayed. I don't like the Android notification shade. I never have really. Guess what I want? I want it's not just notifications. It's my social media. It's everything. I want everything strict chronological. Don't want any algorithms. Don't want anything at all. I want to see the thing that happened.
You can do
one
that
after
on
the other.
Samsung phones.
Not all the way, can you?
Yeah, you can have them.
Why do
That's
you
how I
say
have
not
mine
all the way? What
supported.
are you talking about, Ed?
He
You
wants
said
to
you
do
can't
those
do it on
recent
any other, and you
notifications
can't do
at
it on
the top.
Pixels or Xiaomi's or anything.
Yeah,
Why?
it's not in native Android. You can't do it.
You can't
no.
do it.
Yeah, well, but you have the Samsung stuff you could do, but
Warren doesn't know.
I don't
what we're
even.
talking
I
about
don't. I
because
don't
he
care
doesn't
about
ever use
notifications.
notifications.
No,
He turns notifications off for
I
every.
hate notifications. Yeah, I really do. The only thing I allow notifications for is my Telegram and my messages. Outside of that, anyone, no, you don't get notifications on my phone. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be.
Speaking of Telegram notifications, the thing you were talking about with the delay. So I agree with you. Most apps are delayed, but the thing that bothers me even more is Telegram does not seem to be delayed. So it's like with messaging apps,
It's true.
I get them at the same time, and it's
Yeah.
like if you can let my messaging apps get notifications
Mhm.
immediately, why aren't you letting my other apps? It's like
Because
there's a
those
setting
are
that they're not letting you
prioritized.
adjust. Yeah, exactly. They're prioritizing it.
By
They're not letting
default, they're
you.
prioritized.
They're not letting you
and-
change the behavior, which is annoying.
Because I'm looking at the one on, let's say, on my Unigram and the one on my phone. They both, hit at the same time. And actually, as a matter of fact, when I have my Fruitvale device, it will even hit before it hits on my Fruitvale.
And it's like,
I'm
why
not
I want to
kidding.
be able to decide that my DoorDash notifications are just as important as a message. Like, I want to know my food is about to be at my door. That this is
I
important
like
to me
the
as
food.
Warren messaged me on Telegram. So why
But
is that
I'm your
delayed?
friend. You got to pause the food and talk to a friend. Right?
But the other thing that Android does that's kind of weird with notifications is when you pick it up and unlock your phone, then all of a sudden like you get like 10 notifications rolling at once.
Yeah.
Like,
See, that's why I don't like my notifications on, because you'll have like hundreds of things, pouring in on you at once, and I hate that. I really hate that.
yeah.
It's battery optimization stuff that you can't, at least not that I know of, can't disable.
No. there should be
Even
a
if
thing.
you disable it, will not do anything. The notifications will still be delayed. Like I miss calls, I like lock the phone for maybe 2 minutes, and then I will receive a missed call notification. In 2 minutes, is that like shouldn't be like putting apps to sleep or something, or preventing them from sending notifications? It's just 2 minutes. So there's something that should be fixed, and it's something really serious.
Yeah, but Joe, we really thank you for coming on to talk about your Android journey, and also thanks for that demo or review of the Flip 6 that we'll be including in our next week's episode. So you guys, you flippers out there, keep an ear tuned to that for next week.
I do have one final question for Joe.
Oh,
Before we
brother.
let him go.
Oh, brother.
So Jay, as a regular podcast listener, you will know that when we have interviewees on, I ask them what is the word for cheeks in their native language. So please, can you tell me, to humour my idiosyncrasy, what is the native word for cheeks in US English?
I'm gonna go with the nice answer and just say cheeks.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I love it.
I'm not gonna edge you on here, I'm gonna edge you on. So.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, you did it again.
Good. Well, thanks, Joe, for coming on. And, like I said, though, we always want people to come on. You don't have to come to talk about Android journey story, but you want to come in as guest at any time, feel free to come on. And this invitation is open to everyone out there. Yeah.
Just want to say that how it happened when I'm part of this podcast crew. I first came as a guest talking about my really, really well popular Android journey, and then
that was bad.
That's
when
how I
you
got on there as
had
well.
to take out the battery to end the call.
I gotta go hear your cheeks answer. That's what I gotta go listen to. I gotta go back and hear your journey.
Yeah.
The Turkish for cheeks is yanak.
Yeah, you gotta say Yannick.
Yeah.
And it's good for Karine.
Yeah, but you better not mention that to Karine.
Good.
Yes.
Karine
Well,
likes
I wasn't a guest. Actually, it was pre-recorded, so you couldn't ask it.
And that's why she pre-recorded it, so you couldn't.
Exactly. In other words, you preempted Ed.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. We appreciate you. All good things must end. Thus, it's curtain drawing time, bringing us to the close of this week's episode. Coming up, though, we give you information on how to get hold of us.
John, how can people get in touch with us?
To contact us, simply send an email to contactus@blindandroidusers.com. If you'd prefer, you can leave a voicemail by calling +1 307 202 9797. You can join our mailing list by sending a blank email to blindandroidusers+subscribe@groups.io. You can join our Facebook and Telegram groups or subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links in the podcast show notes or YouTube video description. And you can find all of this information and more at our website, blindandroidusers.com.
Well, that's it for this week, folks. Thanks very much for listening. Say bye-bye.
Bye, everyone, and look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening and hoping to see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Blind Android Users Podcast. Until we see you next week, don't forget to leave us your comments and suggestions via our email contact or using any of our social media sites. Have a great week.